are back with the Buffalonian podcast. I'm Joe Callie. As always, I'm joined by none other than Dom Loss. And no, this isn't like the Loss videos last year where, I play See You Again by Charlie Puth. Nothing like that. No doom and gloom just yet. Dom, the Bills.
Plenty of more time for that.
Plenty of more time for that. But the Bills fall to the Baltimore Ravens. Not just fall, they get absolutely curb stomped by the Baltimore Ravens by a score of 35-10. Am I right on that? 35-10. Derrick Henry just continued to be dominant against the Buffalo Bills. It's a vendetta at this point. I consider it that. I guess before we dive in here, there's not a lot of highlights. I do want to highlight one thing, one play, if you will. But what are your base thoughts after this loss? I'm not taking it too personally.
I'm not either. I think this is the NFL, and sometimes when you play great teams and you don't play your best ball, you're going to get destroyed. And I think, there's a lot of things to learn from this game, and we'll definitely talk about it. But I do think it's also kind of a situation where this is the first time in a while that the Bills have gotten blown out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? First time since the 22 playoffs where they got blown out by the Bengals, and then first time in the regular season, 43, 44 games since they lost that game at home to Jonathan Taylor running the ball down their throat in Indianapolis. So I think that kind of has a little bit to do with I felt like a lot of the negativity was that this hasn't happened to the Bills in a very long time.
Yeah, it's been a minute since something like that happened.
Since they literally have not been competitive in a football game. And they had a brief moment there in the middle of the third quarter where they could have got back into the game to make it competitive. But
yeah.
I'm sure that's one of your players you're alluded to. But yeah, I think there's a lot to discuss. There's a lot to learn from this. It's not the Titanic is not, sinking. They're still 3-1. They're still fine. It's definitely disappointing that in a primetime game, you just get your teeth kicked in.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now, you alluded to it. I want to address one play. We are audio only this week. If you're watching on video, it is a still frame of Dom and I just smiling at you with a nice little ticker at the bottom, letting you know what's going on. But for the highlights this week, the goofiest play of the game. Let's just do that. Because I cannot wrap my head around what the thought behind, let's run the flea flicker. The offense is actually humming here. But let's run the flea flicker. Curtis Samuel takes a direct snap and tosses it to Allen, pitches it to Josh Allen. Allen ends up getting the ball ripped out of his hand as he's winding up to throw, and it turns over the ball to the Ravens. They were looking like they were going to go down and score. I'm not saying they definitely were, but they had the momentum after a couple plays happened, right? Keon Coleman made a big play before that to get them in that position. Again, not guaranteeing they were going to go down and score, but that's what it was looking like because they were moving the ball for really the best time in the game, I would say. And all of a sudden you have that play call that just derailed everything and the momentum completely went back to the Ravens. Allen is shown on the field after in a fetal position on the ground. And I'm just like, his UCL snapped. I was like, that's it. Because from the playback, it looked like when the arm got yanked, the ball got yanked out, the arm got yanked with it. And that's the injury you saw against the Jets a couple of years ago where he did that. And Purdy got his UCL torn actually by that same deal. But the ball was free before he whipped the hand forward, and it was just a back injury. So, Spider-Man 2, my back. That's what was going on that sideline. But they couldn't bring it back. They scored. It would have been 17-21 at that point, well within reach. So couldn't get there, and they ended up losing. But I think they would have lost anyway. The Ravens were pretty dominant. What do you think of that play specifically? You were alluding to it beforehand. Yeah. What do you think? What was the play call? Joe Brady took full accountability for it, by the way. He did.
I think you're trying to catch them maybe, that's the whole point of the element of surprise, but it's kind of hard when, Josh Allen just kind of, why would you have your Wildcat and Josh Allen? I didn't know. I thought maybe the play was that Curtis Samuel was going to fake pitch it and kind of run around the outside. It's a terrible play call. It's just not understanding the timing of the game because at that time, the Bills defense, you had to think in this, they got the forced fumble at the end of the first half, right? And then they get, 2 straight 3-and-outs to begin the third quarter, in the second half, and they had some momentum, right? Offensively, you got a big play to Shakir on that just ludicrous Josh Allen. I don't even know how he did it.
Yeah.
But then you also have it where you got a first down. I think it was I think it might have been Kincaid. I don't think it was a Coleman catch, but I think it was Kincaid. And then you ran 2 plays for another first down. Cook got 3 yards on the next. So it's like 2nd and 7, and you were running the ball kind of effectively. Kind of felt like you had all the momentum, and then like that. But then like that, it's over because you do a trick play. Not only does it not work, you fumble the football, you turn the football over, you give the Ravens then good field position. They go down, score, and now you're looking again back straight in the face of an 18-point deficit, right? And then the Bills go back down again. And then you love Josh Allen to death, but like on a 3rd and 4 kind of broken play, kind of maybe trying to do bad offensive line play. I'm not blaming
We're not
Josh.
blaming Josh,
But like tries maybe to do too much and then gets sacked for 16 yards. And if he would have thrown the ball away, that you're probably like, well, they're going to go for it probably on 4th and 4. But now they can't on 4th and 20, and then T-Bass misses, and then the game was pretty much over the minute they did that trick play and fumbled.
Yeah.
The game was really over when they missed that field goal. So I didn't understand I didn't understand when they were down 35-10. Mostly because it's 35-10 is a 4-possession game. Like it's not touchdown 2 point. Like they're down 25.
Yeah, I feel like
I didn't understand why they put Allen back out there 10 minutes to go. Sorry, I know maybe they were trying to find a rhythm, but they went 3 and out, and then he stopped playing. But
it was too far out of reach.
It was silly.
The Ravens continued to stay dominant the entire game on the ground, on defense. Hats off to the coordinators on the Ravens. They got the job done, but waiting all day for the what? Is it that time? Is it time?
I know the audio only version of the Dom 5.
The Dom 5.
Number 1, the worst coaching performance since 13 seconds. I firmly believe that this is the worst coaching performance that the Bills have had in multiple years. I mean, the 13 seconds was 3 years ago.
That's crazy to think about.
From a perspective of this, obviously that I didn't think they had a good game plan offensively. I thought Joe Brady didn't call a good game, right? And that's accountability, and he took accountability for that. But again, the trick play didn't work. I thought they had moments of running the ball well, and then I think in short yardage they kind of got maybe a little too cute, and they didn't. The offense just didn't move the sticks, right? I mean, they had the Kincaid drop on the first possession. They had that they get to second. I think they got to 2nd and 3. And Cook gets 2 yards, and then they do that weird 3rd and 1 play where they give it to Knox, kind of a read option where the end somehow was able to get both Cook and Allen, and then he had to throw it to Knox for no gain. So that offensively was bad. I just thought it was a bad plan. I thought defensively they got outclassed. Like I think they were arrogant because they were matching that big personnel with Ricard and the double tight ends, with nickel. And yeah, maybe you could do that with Taron Johnson, but you can't do that with Cam Lewis, right?
No.
And then you understood a little bit why they were doing that, because when they finally got to the base set of 3 linebackers, Nicholas Morrow was just abusing coverage and then they started using their play action. But I thought it was a poor defensive plan, and that has something to do with it. And then McDermott, McDermott has a lot of evidence of being very aggressive this season. For whatever reason, he's turned back the clock a little. He's regressed a little bit, I would say.
Yep.
Than conservative. We saw that week 1 against Arizona. Obviously he's gone for Miami, Jacksonville. I thought he did a good job going for it. Obviously, on Sunday, just a terrible job. Right, 4th and inches, they go for it. 4th and 2, they don't, which I thought they should have. Right, and then 4th and 1, you don't go for it. I just thought there was the 4th and shorts. I think you just have to go for it, especially when your defense was getting destroyed. And so I just didn't understand why he was being so. I just didn't understand why he was being so conservative, because either you're going to lose. I would rather go down swinging, saying, we got stopped with Josh Allen on 4th and short, and then they went down, scored in a short field, and punting the ball and watching them march on you. But
yeah,
again, that's my thing. I think it was a failure from the head coach, the offensive coordinator, to the defensive coordinator, to the position coaches. I just thought it was a very poorly coached game, and they got outclassed.
Yeah, I would agree with you. They did no adjust. I mean, the second half, there looked to be some adjustments. Don't get me wrong, but in the beatdown that was the first half, there were no immediate adjustments. I felt like, I don't know if you felt the same way, but it didn't look like they were actively trying to remedy the problem. They were trying to continue to do what they were doing and see when it would start working.
I'll disagree to the extent of they finally got out of nickel,
and
they started getting cooked again. I think they should have been more aggressive with blitzing more and leaving their corners on an island and just saying, if Lamar beats us, he beats us.
They weren't winning with 4 at all on the line at all.
So I think that's the bigger concern. They started doing that a little bit better in in the first couple of drives of the
second half when they were still alive.
Again, then the coaching staff kind of killed the momentum with the trick play. So
yeah, they did. And Joe Brady again took full accountability, and McDermott, 4th and 2, like, come on, like, go for that. You keep the ball in the playmaker's hands. That's what I was saying the entire time. And your best chance to win was Josh Allen staying on the field. So give that next time. You got to let Allen cook. So go ahead. What's number 2?
Number 2, the spine of the defense needs an overhaul. And there's really the 3 key positions are like the spine of the defense. I know a lot of people are going to talk about the linebackers and then the safeties. Well, also include the defensive tackles. It's really 3 things really. With health at one level, performance at one level, and then there's just kind of, I think, needs to be a player change at another level. So I think the defensive tackle position, they just need more, straight up. And you saw that today when they I'm blanking on the guy's name they just added.
I am too. I knew they added somebody.
I'll look it up, but I'm just blank. I know he's a 6th-round pick from Georgia. I'm blanking on like what just happened, but I know they took him from the Atlanta practice squad. But that being said,
Zion Logue.
I knew
something like
I
that.
knew it was Logue. I just couldn't remember what his first name was, and I wasn't going to say Logue, but I think
Zion something, however his name's pronounced.
Sure, it's probably Zion Logue, who's a 6'6", 314-pound big boy. We'll talk later about why he was at the spot that opened up, but
something happened.
Not good.
No.
But the defensive tackles like Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones. I don't know what's going on with Daquan Jones. Listen, he's a little bit older. Sure, he's in his early 30s, but he just hasn't looked the same since he tore his pec. And they need more protection from him. They need Ed Oliver to be more productive. He really had that one game against Miami. So so the defensive tackle position, they just need more production from. That is performance based.
More consistent.
The linebacker / nickel position, Cam Lewis, Spector, Williams. I actually think Dorian Williams isn't playing terrible. I know he got cooked in coverage, and he had some bad plays too. But
it's not playing the worst.
I feel a little bit more comfortable where if the Bills ever got into base personnel when they're all healthy and he has to be the 3rd linebacker, I actually feel pretty comfortable with him being out there. I've gained comfort, I should say, and some confidence in him. And he's played okay. Like I think he's
serviceable.
He's not as big a liability as I thought he was going to be at times. But those positions are health, right? Because it's like you replace Cam Lewis with Taron Johnson, who's an All-Pro. You replace Balen Spector with a captain, who we think is going to be a really good linebacker, Trevor Bernard, and then obviously Dorian Williams with Matt Milano, who is an All-Pro. I mean, we'll see with the injury. I mean, we haven't seen him since his leg injury because he tore his bicep, so we don't really know what kind of player Milano is. But getting those 3 players back, I think, solves that problem. So the deep tackle position, I think, is just performance-based. Linebacker and safety, linebacker and slot, I should say, is just flat out. You just got to get healthy in those positions. Finally, with the spine safety, I just think they need to go for the upside. I'm sorry, like Camlin gives you a nice floor, but he just doesn't have a ceiling of a productive week in and week out NFL player. And I think now is the time to kind of let's get a look at Cole Bishop. Taylor Rapp, I think, is solid. I don't mind him being the opposite starter. But he's concussed, obviously, and he's in concussion protocol, and we don't know if he's going to play. I think Mike Edwards needs to look now. I think now is the time to experiment with Cole Bishop and Mike Edwards, with Rapp being banged up, Hamlin kind of being whatever. He's a nice depth player, but he's a depth player. Like, I think now is the time for us to kind of the Bills to experiment a little bit with their safeties now to try and get their best 2 safeties on the field. And we'll see if that's Cole Bishop and Mike Edwards, and maybe it's not. Maybe they play and it's like, you know what, Cole Bishop not quite ready. Mike Edwards, just maybe not the guy they thought they were. But I think now is the time now to learn those things.
Right.
Because it could get worse, I should say, with Hamlin and Rapp. But like I think those guys give you a ceiling that you don't currently have with how safe you're playing at that position.
Yeah. And now Rapp, I don't know the extent of his injury, but he spearheaded head first into Derrick Henry, thinking that was a good idea. So you lost him. I agree with you. They showed the shot on the sideline of Milano, Bernard, and Johnson all in the Crucial Cat sweatshirts together with the earpieces on. I'm like, this is just painful to look at. Like, this is the complete core of your defense that makes your defense a top defense every year. Maybe not all of them at the same time, because Milano, of course, was not healthy last year. But those 2 out of the 3 are normally good enough to get you to where you need to be. So that's big. You're right. The defensive linemen need to just figure it out, get more production. And the safety thing, 100% agree. I mean, we were talking with our friend Greg last night. You saw the interception with DeMar Hamlin last week. against Jacksonville. It was this. He was slow moving. Whatever. Like it was amazing. He got that interception, but he's not a ball hawking safety by any means. You're right. He doesn't have the ceiling that someone else on the team might have. Mike Edwards, I'd like to see get a look at because there's a reason I think you signed him. He did well in Kansas City too. He was very serviceable in Kansas City. So like to see and get a look at him and maybe give Cole Bishop some meaningful snaps. But we'll have to wait and see now because Rapp is out too. So we'll see what they do from there. But yeah, I agree with you.
Thank you. And then number 3, my concern level after the game. So I'm not panicked by either side of the ball. Right? They got their butts whooped. But if I would say what side of the ball I'm more concerned about, is definitely the offense. Because again, the defense, I kind of align kind of like how like they're just going to get better throughout the year, kind of as they get healthy. I think the offense is going to get better throughout the year. Like I knew we were going to have these bumps in the road. I mean, it just kind of like they started off 3-0 and like everyone's talking about them. But I do think that listen, they're a skill position group that kind of needs to get schemed open, and they struggled to get. The Ravens had a really good defensive game plan. They really dominated the Bills up front in pass protection. I thought the Bills did not a bad job running the ball, but in pass protection, they really attacked the right side of the line. And that's a situation where like Josh had to be hero ball a little too much for my liking.
Yeah.
So again, I think that a little bit Joe Brady. I think he needs to be a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I think they need to figure out Curtis Samuel a little bit more. He's puzzling to me. And then some guys just need to make more plays. Like I think for me, I want to see more Kincaid involved in these, not just screen passes. Like I like getting the ball in his hands, but like
send him downfield.
I'd like to see him more down the field. Maybe he's not winning, and we don't have the
we don't have the angle or whatever.
Well, we don't look at the all 22, but like I would like to see him more opportunities down the field. And my thing also is Dawson Knox, was a guy that was a huge contributor to this offense for years. And I understand he's now tight end 2, but for him to just be catching like one ball a game is just kind of surprising for me. I mean, he's an athletic guy that you see his ability with the ball in his hands. Like I just maybe he just regressed that much, but I would like to see him get some more opportunities because I think he's kind of a guy that could be a difference. I think he could be a difference maker still. I still think he's a solid starting tight end in this league, and he's just not like he has like 3 or 4 catches in the year. It's just kind of crazy to me how little usage Dawson Knox is getting. So again, I'm more concerned about the offense just because I think they're going to have to make a trade at some point for one more skill position player.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's head to the next one. What you got for number 4?
Number 4, I just think it's unserious that Bass is the only kicker. I shouldn't say on the roster. I had it on the roster in the print. I just mean overall. Like I think they should add one to the practice squad.
A kicker?
A kicker.
Yeah.
Well,
he made one from the 50. I was like, okay, go off, Tyler Bass.
And then it was dead.
It was dead eye.
And it was kind of a big. I mean, I should say big moment, but like it was 7-0 at the time. Like that was
helped keep him in the game.
That was kind of a big kick, and then he just shanks the 48 one, just hooks it. And it's like okay, like it just feels like it's one step forward to Tyler Bass, 2 steps back, and
yeah, I just wonder what is going. Like is it the holding or is it like what is happening?
I don't know because he hooked that one in Miami.
Yeah, that was a 38-yarder. He just shanked to the left.
Yeah, I still remember the one he hooked in the playoffs against Pittsburgh, like a 27-yard field goal. He just hooked too. So I don't know. I just think like now we're in a situation where I understand the cap hit and I understand the financial aspect, but you're just hurting your team by having him out there at this point. Unfortunately, to say that. So
yeah.
Definitely, I think they need to add a kicker. And then 5, just an overall thought. Just it's a humbling experience, right? I think this is the NFL. This is a humbling experience.
Yeah.
Any
given Sunday, that's just how it is. Like you said, you actually picked correctly. I'm betting on the Bills last week too.
Thank you. Yeah, I did.
One of the picks against the Bills that actually came to fruition in a big way. And
thank you.
I think, truthfully, like Alan said, glad it happened early in the season because then you look at a game like this and you're like, okay, what can you do from here? I don't think it's DEFCON 5. I don't think it's a worry thing for the entirety of the season. I think you just need like
some more things to work on. But yeah. I did like his demeanor in the post game.
Yeah,
like sometimes like
he took it on the chin.
Last year, like it just felt like
He just was.
He was so dejected
He
and
was like a little kid who just got put in
distraught.
timeout.
I just
Yeah.
think like this year, like you're just seeing a more mature Josh Allen, a leader in Josh Allen, which is exciting. So yeah, that's all I have for the down 5. That's pretty much all. I mean, it's all I have for this game. I mean, it was ugly. It was a beatdown.
Yeah. There's nothing really more to say about it. It was just, it's their first loss of the season in a big way. Can they bounce back? We'll tell you all about it this coming Friday. I'm betting on the Bills as they gear up to take on Stephon Diggs and the Houston Texans on the second game of the 3-game road trip before heading to New York or New Jersey, excuse me, to take on the Jets. So this is a big week. If they can bounce back and put on a good show,
Yeah,
we'll see. Texas or Houston's a good team. They are.
they're a good team, and it's definitely tough now. I mean, now that we're breaking into kind of like what happened today,
Yes.
losing Vaughn for 4 games is big.
Mm-hmm.
I think people had oh my god, maybe we got out of like his guaranteed money now, and I was like, well, that's true, right? Because he got suspended, and there's probably something in his clause that allows a void, but they kind of need him. Like they kind of like he was being. Listen, he had a bad game against Baltimore. Baltimore was a bad matchup for him, but he's been probably. I think not probably. He's been their most productive pass
Yeah.
rusher.
Most efficient pass rusher they've had.
Most efficient pass rusher
Mm.
is probably the better term. But so they do need him, and losing him for these 4 games is going to be massive. I think you're going to have to see Casey Toonhill step up, and
Mm-hmm.
Javon Solomon. Like this is a massive, massive opportunity for Javon Solomon,
Yeah.
right?
Solidify a spot on
They
the
didn't
roster.
trust him really in Baltimore, right? Because that was kind of a you can't be rushing.
Derrick Henry or
Well, you
whatever.
can't be rushing, out of control against Lamar Jackson because he'll burn you. But this is a massive opportunity. You're going against CJ Stroud, who does have some good pocket movement. But I'm looking for a big game right here from Javon Solomon. They need him to step up now for this next month, right? Because you're going to be then playing Aaron Rodgers, who's an elite quarterback, and you got to be able to get pressure on him. And then Tennessee's kind of they're weird, but then Seattle, Geno's been playing terrific. He played terrific last night on Monday, and so 3 of the next 4 games, they're going to be playing really good quarterbacks, and they're going to need to be getting pressure on those quarterbacks. And those reserve DNs, those edge, Smoot, Toonhill, and Solomon are going to have to step up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited because I'm a big Javon Solomon guy, and
Yeah.
I think he's going to call him Baby Von for a reason, and we're going to need him to become the man.
Yeah, that could be huge. And you do have Greg Rousseau and AJ Epinesa who've both been playing well this season, minus the Baltimore game, realistically. But yeah, it's a big next man up moment for the Bills defensive tackles here. So this will be exciting. They're edge rushers, but I don't want to go too far into the Houston thing. But we'll see if they bounce back. You want to head to the? Is it time for Sabres?
Sure, just one quick thing about Devontae Adams.
Oh yeah,
I think it's going to be really hard for them to get a trade off. I mean, the Raiders are going to have to eat a lot of his cap. I still think the Bills should be all over Amari Cooper because he is I think has like $1.7 million if you trade for him, and
Mhm.
he's the guy that I
Who's
think
he
is
with?
Cleveland,
Cleveland. Okay.
and he's more of a rental. And Cleveland's I think now 1-3, so they might be in the mood to trade. And the Bills have 10 draft picks in 25. I think that would be
Just rip a couple off.
a slam dunk trade for the Bills to get Cooper, who's still older now, but would be a good asset to the team, especially if Secure being injured. Now we didn't really talk about that, but with the ankle,
Mm-hmm.
he's able to play. But he's probably like a 50-50 on playing this week. I don't think he's going to play this week.
Yeah.
So again, I don't. They're not going to trade for Cooper right now, but I'm saying in a month when the trade deadline comes around ish, I think I'm hopeful that we can get Amari Cooper. He's more of a realistic target than Adams.
Yeah. And while I would love Devontae Adams to come to Buffalo, you're absolutely right. And, get a veteran presence in the locker room to help these wide receivers out. You have a young room. So that'd be huge to add, maybe that X receiver. I know Khalil Shakir was kind of that already, right? They're on paper,
I don't say X,
but he was their number one, their target, right?
Sure.
And maybe if you truly add an X receiver, you might be able to spread the ball around a little more. We'll see.
And last thing I do want to say before we move on that Coleman, yes, he had that killer drop, and that was a bad drop.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
That was a bad drop. But he did have 2 really nice back shoulder balls, which I'm excited for because that's why he was brought in is when you're playing against man coverage and you're having a hard time scheming people open. Like he's kind of his skill set is the ultimate kind of. I'm trying to think of the ultimate kind of equalizer to that the team's playing you that way. So I'm excited for that. Listen, he's gonna learn how to run better routes and separate more efficiently.
Yeah.
But his floor with that ability is going to be big, especially when we get into later in the season when you play more elite teams, especially also in the red area. Like to be able to throw up to someone and he can make a play on the ball.
Yeah. And again, like you said, it's what they brought him in for. He wasn't supposed to be the fastest guy out there getting so much separation. He wasn't Xavier Worthy. They wanted something different than what they already had, and he can make some big contested catches. He's a big boy, so hopefully he continues to. He made 2 big catches, like you said, after that drop. Hopefully he stops dropping passes, and he's a rookie. It'll all come with time. So, with that being said, it is time to head onto the Buffalo Sabres. And the Sabres preseason, is it officially over? Or is it like one more game? I think it's officially official, right? Yep. Officially over. The Sabres are ready for the regular season. We'll see some regular season action against non-AHLers, which will be huge because I feel like that's what we've kind of been seeing and trying not to get too excited about all preseason. So it'll be kind of nice to see them play some real teams in Prague to start it all off, right?
Yeah, it's very exciting to see that the games actually matter.
Mm-hmm. Friday night, right? That's the first one.
Friday at 1 p.m.
Well, oh, that's right. Night there, 1 p.m. here.
1 p.m. and then they play 10 a.m. on Saturday. So yeah, definitely intriguing. Obviously, I think you're going to see UPL in game 1, Levi probably in game 2, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see what the lines are. I'm excited to see what the pairings are. I'm just excited to see them play. Kind of a little, re-energized a little bit.
Yeah, the vibes. Is it the return? We'll see.
But yeah, I mean, it's exciting, and I'm really pumped up for Lindy Ruff to come back, and this is his team now. I'm pumped to see the difference between the power plays, the penalty kills, how they play.
Yeah,
and I know we keep saying excited, but I'm just excited for these games to matter, and I want them to get off to a fast start because I think a lot of their season went down the drain. They've been very, the Sabres players have been very vocal about it that, kind of in November, they kind of like 10 games in, it kind of felt like they were done, right? With the hole they dug themselves in and how badly they were playing, but the whole kind of situation with, Oposo admitted it. I think Tuck said something about it too, the underachieving. So I think it's really massive for them to get off to a fast start. I'm really hopeful that they can get, obviously at least one win. You gotta want to at least split. You don't want to be that one team that goes all the way out to Prague and goes 0-2. But it would be nice to get 3 out of 4, or maybe get all 4 points here. Like that would be kind of massive for them. So
that'd be huge.
I'm really excited about that. But now let's talk about a little bit of a bigger picture. Some awards.
Gotcha.
Some predictions.
Some futures, if you will.
Sure, in an extent.
Yeah.
But who do you think is going to be? I don't want to say. I'm not going to say MVP. Well, I guess MVP. Sure, we'll do MVP, and then I'll ask a different question because I think we all know. I think I know what you're going to say. I think you know who I'm going to say. But who do you think your MVP is?
Just for the team?
For the team, because I think last year you could say UPL was.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and we'll see if he bounces back this year. You might not know who I'm gonna say. I don't know. I've been pondering it a little bit. Who I'm expecting to really break out.
I think Darlene is gonna be the MVP.
Okay.
I think this is the year.
You and I are in agreement.
Okay. Well, I think
it was him or Cousins in my head.
Well, I think the power play. I think he's gonna get more points in the power play, and I think he's locked in now, captain of the squad. I don't know if you said anything about that, but he is now the captain of the Buffalo Sabres.
Right. I don't think we had an episode.
No, we didn't. So
yeah,
he's the captain. I think Cousins, Samuelson, Tuck, and Thompson have the A. So really exciting new era in leadership. But yeah, I think he has that captain swagger now. I think he has a big year. I think he has an 80-point season. I think he could really, if the Sabres make the playoffs, I think he has a really good chance of winning the Norris, because if the Sabres make the playoffs, that means Dahlin was just really good.
Yeah, and like you said, it is Lindy's team, but it's also Rasmus Dahlin's team. And I think he's going to take that in stride, and he knows these guys. They're a brotherhood. They've all loved the change in leadership. Not loved, I should say, but they all thought they needed it, right?
I think they're enthused about it. Like,
yeah.
I think
It's a different
It's
feel.
harder. It's hard. I think they understand that it's harder.
Yeah, but
I
that's
think
what
I
accountability
think
is.
they want to be held accountable. I think they want to be pushed.
Yes, because that's what professional sports franchises should be doing for their players, always aiming to be better and not giving outs. But either way, Darlene, I think, is a good pick.
And then
I said Cousins was like a second option.
Really?
I think he might explode.
So my next question then would be, I guess not next question, but next kind of award. I wanted to change because I thought both of us were going to go Darlene for MVP, but I wanted to figure out how we could get like a forward kind of involved without saying breakout or whatever. But who do you think leads the team in points? 'Cause I don't think it's going to be Darlene.
No,
Um,
as much as I want, again,
and you just said Cousins.
I did say Cousins.
So I feel like you're.
I was going to say, as much as I want to say Tage Thompson, I think he bounces back. I think Dylan Cousins just has a phenomenal season. I really do.
Really?
Yeah.
You know what I think?
I have that vibe. Like, there's not a lot for me to go on, but I have a vibe.
I think
feel
Tage
Dylan
is going to be
Cousins.
really good.
Mm-hmm.
I think JJ Paterka is going to lead the team in points and
He's
goals.
been showing out. Yeah.
I think he could have a 90-point season. Like I'm very high on JJ Paterka. He's going to play on the top line. Finally going to get some power play time as well. Like I think he's a guy that is just maturing in front of our eyes, and I think he's. You know, they haven't signed to that contract. I feel like they should do like the 23rd hour right before the papers due, give him a contract. Or
Yeah,
something. But
you hear the Sunday Night Football theme playing, and you're like, "Oh my God, 5 pages due at midnight. What are we gonna do?"
JJ Paterka contract now. But I think he's gonna have a big year. I think he could have a 40-goal, 50-assist season. I think he's their guy.
I like it. No, I really do. I've liked watching him play. Again, I take the preseason pledge for every sport every year, but he's been showing out so far in preseason. So I have nothing but high hopes for him. I mean, Cousins, for me, I think he's gonna pop.
Well, then I have two more, and then we could get on to we
can dynasty.
Yeah. Well, actually, technically three more, but I have a 2 for 1.
I gotcha.
But who do you? I guess this one's kind of easy. Well, I should say it's easy, but like, who do you think is going to be the goaltender? Like, I guess I think it's I don't know. I just think it's easy to say UPL.
It's UPL.
I think it is UPL.
It's
but
going
I
to be
think
UPL.
I think you could talk yourself into
Levi.
I think you could talk yourself into. I'm not saying he is
Obi-Wan DeGoalie.
I'm. No. I thought it was Qui-Gon Jinn. He was a big Qui-Gon guy.
I don't know.
But,
He just meditates and he's
that's Qui-Gon though.
Or he's
that was a little fake Star Wars fan to you.
What do you mean?
That's Qui-Gon.
But in the black and reds, he's Darth Goalie.
All right.
Come on.
Okay, you rebounded a little bit.
Obi-Wan DeGoalie sounds better than Qui-Gon.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm just saying it's a Qui-Gon thing he's doing.
Well, he's Qui-Gon.
Okay, it's a Star Wars podcast.
Yeah, okay.
But I think you could talk into yourself into Levi because I think Levi has a really high upside, and I think the time in Rochester hit him really well for him to kind of like mentally reset.
Yeah.
To professional hockey, like going from college to the NHL was a lot, I think, and then for him to kind of take a step back, get used to as being a professional hockey player, not an amateur hockey player. I think it's big for him, but I just think UPL. I think he'll continue to build upon a really good season, and I actually think he's going to play better this year because I think with Levi playing backup, pushing him for starts, and then also I think he's going to be fresher because they could turn to Levi. Maybe they turn to James Reimer for some starts as well. It's not just UPL and no one else this year. Eric Comrie. I think there's a better backup, so I think he's going to be fresher and better throughout the entire year. So
I think they're going to be a dynamic duo. I'm really excited to see the two of them. And Levi and Rochester last year, towards the end of the season, started to put things together a lot more than he was starting out in the NHL, right? So hopefully that transitions over with him and Lindy's tutelage. I mean, he had a couple good goaltenders back in the day. His last time here too. So you got Ryan Miller and Dominic Hasek. So
pretty good names.
Are we seeing a mirror effect here? That's the question.
So my last question, I have one more after this because I forgot there's a big question I have to ask.
Okay,
a big picture question. But my last award, kind of based the 2 for 1, kind of who do you think is going to break out and who do you think is going to bounce back?
Tage bounce back. I would say that's a Tage bounce back. Breakout. Give me Zach Benson.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow. I didn't expect that one.
I think Benson.
That was a good one.
He was big. He was laying hits in the NHL last year, taking the punishment. He's proven that he's got the grit to play up with the big boys. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to have a great season under Lindy Ruff. That's my breakout player.
That's a good one. That was a really good one. Crap. I think I'm
the 19-year-old Zach.
The breakout. I feel like I kind of tied myself to Paterka a little bit with saying he's going to lead the team in points because he kind of broke out a little bit last year.
Yeah.
With his jump to being a legit top 6 forward, but I think he's going to take another jump. So I'll go him kind of in the sense of I think he's going to take another jump. Bounce back. I think this guy was, overhated last year a little bit. And I think he's going to be a big reason for their success this year. And I think he really fits the Lindy Ruff system. I think he's going to have a big season. And that's Owen Power.
Oh,
Right? Like, I think he was kind of maligned a lot for their struggles. He's not going to be a guy that's the most physical defenseman that's going to, for a guy being successful, it's going to make people mad. But I think he's a guy that's going to be really productive in transition for this team. And I think he's going to have, hopefully, a good shot, improved shot. And I think he's going to bounce back. And I think he's going to have a 50-point season on that D-core and really kind of be that 1B to Dahlian's 1A.
I like it. That's a good pick, too.
Thank you. My last question before we talk a little fantasy
Little
football.
dynasty fantasy football. What you got?
Do the Buffalo Sabres break the drought?
Yes.
Whoa.
And they do it before the New York Jets, so then the Jets have the longest outstanding playoff drought in the national sports. I think they do. I'm not saying they go deep. I think they make it to the first round. I think they break the drought.
Well, I mean, they had to make the first round. They had to make.
Well, I understand that. Yeah, but they're not going to. I mean, it would be great for them to make a run. But I think on Lindy's first year, the first real turnaround with these guys, it's going to. They'd be a feisty team to get in and win, though.
So,
but I think they break the drought. Yeah. Do you? Or do you think it's next season?
So I think after their moves, I would have said no. Like, I just would have been like looking at the team of paper. But I think I'm kind of buying more into the impact. Lindy's having, I think, kind of have a bigger impact than even I anticipated.
Mm-hmm. I think than anyone.
And I've kind of bought myself into. I think Levi is going to have a good year, and I believe in UPL. I think when you had that goaltending again, and I just think there's while they have holes on their roster, I don't think all their good players really regressing is going to happen again.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that's kind of the situation for me is that, like, while I do think they still have a lot of holes that they should have fixed, last year, all their good players, none of them really had a good season except, like, you could say Peterka had a good season for his, like, Quinn was injured, all that. I just don't see that, or UPL had a good season as well. I just don't see that happening again.
Right.
So I think there's some regression bounce back plus good goaltending plus Lindy Ruff effect. So I think they're going to make the playoffs. I do. I think they're a little bit weaker in the Atlantic. So I actually believe last year we predicted them to make the playoffs. And I think both you and I kind of had
we had an anticipation they'd improve upon what they did the season before.
I think both you and I, well, I guess I'll say from my perspective, I don't know about your perspective, but I predicted them to make the playoffs last year, and I felt terrible about that. Like, I just did. I felt like everything. I guess we're gonna talk about vibes. The vibe of
we stay away from vibes.
I know we're both like we gotta stop talking about vibes as much as we do. But the vibe around the team was, oh my god, we missed by 1 point. And I was like, okay, you did, and then move the hell on.
Mm-hmm.
Like
they dwelled on it a little too much.
I felt like it was a massive dwelling point. I was like, you guys aren't 1 point away. Like, you guys got to play better.
Yeah.
Like, throughout the year. Like, it's not like, yeah, you mathematically missed by 1 point, but there's so much for you guys to improve upon.
Yeah.
Where, like, I felt like they got kind of complacent and they got passed up. And so for me, last year, I was like, I felt like they could do it. And then when we made the pick and we were on the pod, I was like, well, I'm not going to pick them not to. And then when I did, I was like, you know what? I just feel really crappy about this because, like, for whatever reason, my heart of hearts, I just don't leave. Are they really going to think Levi? Like, there was so much stuff last year where it was like, so many unanswerable questions. I was like, honest to God, like, I think there's some scoring regression here, and I don't know if Levi should be the starter. Like, and then what happened, right? So this year, I feel a lot better about kind of a positive regression from their better players. I like some of their younger players taking a step, and I like their goaltending a lot better than last year. I could worry about should Jordan Greenway really be playing, or who's really playing defense after Dahlian Power a little bit later. I don't know. I believe a little bit more than I do this year, and I now truthfully believe
it's the return.
It's the return of the vibes.
Okay.
The return of the Sabres to the playoffs.
It's the return of the vibes. I agree with you. Last season, I felt fine doing it initially. I mean, as any bad pick would be, though. You would feel worse and worse about it the worse they did.
Sure.
But like it sunk in after a couple games. I feel like when they couldn't go on a streak of winning or losing, that it just wasn't.
It just felt like by mid-November, it was like this was.
It was
a
it.
mistake.
It was
Like,
over.
It just kind of felt like really like it was like, man, like this isn't like it wasn't fun to cover. So
No,
again,
I mean, we omitted them in season.
I'm very excited.
multiple
I'm
episodes
very
last
excited
year.
for this year, though. I'm very excited because I
Yeah.
think this is gonna be great for the pod because I think it's gonna be intriguing talking about.
We have upside for both teams to maybe talk about, so that could be a lot of fun.
Mhm.
But that being said, we do want to make this more of a regularity, talking some dynasty in our fantasy football, right?
Just kind of like
Just a little
our thing is this.
debrief,
We
if
had
you
like
will.
we had like I don't know debrief, but like we had a would you rather segment, and we might bring that back a little bit. But
We had trivia.
just like a couple of minutes of just us being us being a little, maybe a little bit more. I don't say authentic. It's like we are authentic.
No, but like a little cap
a
off.
little
at the end.
outside of just true Buffalo sports, and a little bit us as just general sports fans.
Yeah,
per se.
right. Your average general sports.
Like you're wearing it. Like I know we're audio only. This man's wearing a Yankees jersey. Hoping
Mantle Hall of Fame jersey.
hoping his team actually, at least
Top of the AL East, baby. Come on.
at least wins the AL this year.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I think we're talking a little fantasy football here today. Maybe it might not always be fantasy football. It may honestly,
Might be just random sports.
it may just be a random sports topic that we have an opinion on. But we had something relevant happen in our league that Joseph and I made a trade, and I just say shook up the league. That's kind of like the wrong. But a lot of people
said it was a fleece, and I just don't think it was. We agreed on it,
Well, here's the situation. I traded. This is Dynasty.
so it's a keeper.
Well, yeah. But
For if you don't know,
I traded Jackson Smith and Jigga, JSN, who is the wide receiver for the Seahawks, and Rashad White, who is the running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, for Roma Dunze and a 2026 second round pick. And the situation is pretty much this. A lot of people were upset about it because Rashad White has lost a lot of value because he might be the backup. And a lot of people thought Joe was selling low on Rome, which may be true, maybe not. But Joe's a team that wants to go for it, wants to win. I understood his perspective of it. Trading for JSN, who outscored Roma Dudes the first week after the trade. I'm looking at it more of a long-term view of I'm getting a player who would have been a first-round pick had we started Dynasty a year later.
Yeah,
later.
Later.
So I'm looking at that situation of getting a little bit younger, getting an asset for a guy in White that I kind of lost a little faith in as well. Obviously, it made some people upset, but it is what it is. And I'll let you talk about your perspective of the trade. But for me, like I liked my end of. Obviously, I accepted it. I like my end of the bargain, right? I think changing, switching Jackson and Jigba really into Rome, and then getting a second round pick for White was just a good move for me at the time. And I still think it's a good move because again, I'm in for a little bit of the long haul, a little bit of that trade. Of my guys. So I don't know. I think not to cut you off because I know you want to say your piece. I also just think like generally like I like fantasy football when it's the most active and when trades are flying and people are active.
And Dynasty promotes that.
And I don't like when trades happen and other people. I mean, I like when trades happen. I should say this. I like when trades happen and
the league has an opinion.
People have opinions and we have conversations. I just think that's good for your league to have some fun. What I don't love is the when you hear like, oh my god, like if we had the veto button, like I would have vetoed it. I just don't like that. Like I think vetoing is all about collusion pretty much. And I think that's really the only acceptable veto. And I don't know. I just like when people make trades, man. And sometimes you don't get enough for a player. Sometimes a guy overpays you. But like I think that's the fun of this is you make trades with your friends and you see what happens. But I don't love the fact of I don't mind the fact of people thinking you got fleeced and some people thinking you did well here.
No.
I do have an issue with the like when people look at trades and go, man, I wouldn't have done that, so I veto. Like just because you wouldn't have done it doesn't mean
you're not running my team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like that's also the hard thing of like trade calculators. Why I don't always like I use trade calculators, but at the end of the day, like a trade calculator is a player in a vacuum. Not so much a player to my team, the value I have on that player for my team,
right,
compared to a player that you have on your team or your team's roster build. So that's why when people go, oh man, I put in a trade calculator and it said like, oh,
I ran ours through and it was pretty even, but
well, like it said, oh, it's unfair. Like I should have got a 3rd-round pick instead of a 2nd-round pick. And I was like, okay, so we're haggling over a round pick. You know
In
what I
2
mean?
years. So 2026.
That's what I'm saying is frustrating about, when people complain about that stuff. Is like, okay, like you're complaining about, a perfect example too is I made a trade for Kyle Pitts, and that trade sucked. Like Kyle Pitts hasn't caught a ball.
He's been terrible.
He's been terrible.
I have him in other
And
leagues.
that was a terrible move for me in Dynasty. I thought, you know what, 23-year-old tight end. I had George Kittle, who's 30. Like age-wise, makes sense for me. I threw in a 3rd-round pick, and someone was complaining that I didn't throw in a 2. Like it was like it should have been Kittle in a 2. And
Yeah.
now it looks like I shouldn't. Like, is Kittle the same value as Pitts? I don't know. So like I just think a lot of this stuff changes week to week.
Yeah, it's all about how they're perceived and their performances from the week prior.
It's how people in the league and how you value your players.
Right. And I'll add my context. I'm 3-0-1 currently. Okay, I'm undefeated. I'm on top of the Dynasty League. I'm in win now territory at this point in the season.
You don't have your 1st-round pick.
I don't have my 1st-round pick next year.
You have old Travis Kelce and old Derrick Henry.
Yes,
like you were all in.
I built my team to win year 1, and I will deal with the consequences from there on out. I have Josh Allen as my quarterback. Granted, he got 7 points last week. Still laid the smackdown at 154-point week, highest score in the league. Derrick Henry, I have. Lamb. I have young players. But Rashad White, when he's being Rashad White for whatever reason this season, he's kind of having a down year, right? But last season I had him on fantasy teams, and he was well sought after. Like people wanted to trade for him. He was doing really well. So pending on his bounce back, and Jackson Smith and Jigba, they're both in their early 20s. Rashad White's 25 years old, right? You have a long time with those two players. So for me, just sitting with Roma Dunze on my bench every week at this point, I'd rather get.
Rome's a good prospect. Like
Yeah, but he's not getting points right away. He's getting 2 points per week almost. You know,
he's not consistent. JSN, he's been a little boom buster, but he has a better offensive coordinator, a better situation currently in Seattle.
Smith and Jigba in a flex spot is 100 times better than Roma Dunze in a flex spot or on my bench.
Sure.
And I would rather have that playing.
And JSN's under 23, so it's not like you like traded for a 26-year-old. Like no.
And the value that brings to my team to continue to put points on the board and win games and win it this season, right? Go for the championship. That's what my team's built for. Yours, you're building a little bit more for the future. I'm going to have to do that in a couple years, but who's to say I don't get that 2nd-round pick back in 2026 from a trade down the line?
Sure.
From someone else. Like, it's.
Who says you don't make a trade and recoup that asset?
Yeah. Who says I don't get a 1st-round pick for making a trade at the end of the season or something, or in the off season? I'm going to be paying attention to waiver wires this season because players, especially when players are getting dropped and signed everywhere, that's the fun of Dynasty. You can really get some trade value there.
And that's kind of my thing of trading is that it's a crapshoot. It really is. For the most part, it's a crapshoot. Like I traded Devontae Adams and a 1st-round pick for Garrett Wilson. I knew Garrett Wilson was going to struggle for matchup, but that trade hasn't been fantastic for me. But I'm willing to wait it out. And again, that was a trade where like if you probably put in a calculator, it says fair, and like maybe the player I traded, Station Judge, I could have got more. But at the same time, like we're haggling over stuff, very minor stuff.
Doesn't matter.
And that's why I get frustrated with the thought of we should be vetoing trades. Like I think we should be encouraging trades as much as possible in fantasy football because trading is fun. It makes the league fun. It makes it more competitive because like not only am I paying attention now to my team,
other teams,
and my team's results, I'm paying attention to your team. I'm paying attention to another like team A, team B. Like I'm paying attention to like whose players aren't playing well, like who's injured on their team. Like
you start to be a real GM,
right? Like you're trying to figure out like, okay, like I need to understand my strengths and weaknesses, but I kind of need to understand my, your team's strengths and weaknesses and say, you know what, where can I get some leverage where I can make a trade where I like the value I'm getting back, right?
Because that's the thing. Everyone's like, oh, it's a one-sided trade. Of course, it's going to be more for the person who's initiating the trade than for the other side.
Sure, I mean,
like, that's just how it's going to be. But it's got to be even in a way. But there's not going to be a trade that's 50-50 right down the middle. You got to give up a little bit of capital if you want to make something happen.
No such thing as a true win-win trade.
No.
Right? Like everyone talks
there's a win and then there's a more of a win. And that's
what I'm saying.
How Roma Dunze turns out, that might be our trade. Who knows?
That's a long-term trade. So, again, a little bit of a spiel, not so much focus on our Dynasty League, but or focus on that specific trade.
Promote trades in your fantasy leagues. That's a PSA.
It's more of a PSA, too. I think trading is fun. And I think when you allow, when you stop doing trades and
People
when
are
the
just hanging
activity
on to
dies,
players, and it's just like,
you
what are you
can't be.
doing?
You can't be. You got. I just like aggressive. I just like being aggressive. That's just who I am. And if I start to lose because of that, then I'll go down swinging.
Yeah.
Like the Bills should have done in the Ravens game.
Yep. And we'll see if they continue to do that for the rest of the season or if they bounce back this weekend. But we'll have more coming for you this Friday on our Betting on the Bills episode. Some more fantasy talk as well. Dom, you got anything else you want to add before we cap this one off?
Nope. See you Friday.
All right. See you on Friday. How do we always end these, buddy?
Go Bills, baby.
Go Bills.